The champagne flutes clinked. Fake laughter rippled across the manicured lawn. And somewhere between the string quartet and the shrimp cocktails, I stood alone. An outsider at my own brother's engagement party. Why is she even here? Someone whispered behind a wine glass. She's just the daughter who ran away and came crawling back. Another chuckled. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation. Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I ignored them. I had gotten used to the stares, the smirks, the polite smiles that carried daggers underneath. Still, I kept my chin high, but then I felt the sudden rush of silence. A heavy hush. My father's footsteps echoed like a hammer on marble as he approached. You really showed your face here, huh? He snarled. Nice to see you too, Dad. I replied calmly, offering him the same cold politeness he'd always served me growing up. You've got some nerve. His voice cracked with restrained rage. This is James' night. You showing up like this, you're a disgrace. The crowd watched wide-eyed and thrilled. Engagement parties were rarely this entertaining. Dad, I began trying to keep my voice steady. I RSVP'd. I was invited. By who? He hissed. You weren't invited by me, and this isn't your place anymore. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I looked him in the eye and said the truth. You made it clear a long time ago. I wasn't part of this family. I didn't come to stir anything. I just wanted to wish James well. Wish James well, he scoffed. Wish him well after you abandoned your family to chase. What? Some fantasy life with that nobody you married. You embarrassed us. You're not my daughter anymore. And then he shoved me hard. My heels slipped on the edge of the stone border behind me. And just like that, I fell backward into the cold, glittering fountain. Gasps, laughter, clapping. She's lucky we even let her in. My stepmother barked from across the courtyard. Her pearls bounced as she chuckled and sipped her white wine. Serves her right, someone else muttered. This is better than the speeches, came a voice from behind the floral arch. I sat up, drenched. Mascara running, hair plastered to my cheeks. But I didn't cry, not this time. Instead, I smiled, a slow, steady, almost eerie smile as I wiped the water from my face and said, Remember this moment. That's when the front gates opened and every guest turned. A black Bentley rolled up the stone path, flanked by two matte SUVs. Security stepped out first. Two men in crisp black suits scanned the yard. Then the driver opened the car door and he stepped out. My husband. And not just any man. Not the nobody they thought he was when I left 5 years ago. Not the failing startup guy they mocked for being beneath our family. He was Eli Whittaker now. And as he walked toward me, perfect in his tailored navy suit, sunglasses glinting, every inch of him radiating quiet, terrifying power, the whole yard went pale. Even my father, even my smug stepmother, even James, who froze mid-toast with his fiancée. She with him. Someone whispered, their voice cracking. My husband reached me, offered me his hand without a word. I stood, water still dripping from my dress. He took off his blazer and wrapped it around me. Then he looked up at the crowd, dead serious, and smiled. Thanks for keeping my wife entertained, he said coldly. She won't be needing any of you anymore. He turned to me, ready, Mrs. Whittaker. More than ever. And we walked straight through the gasping crowd, leaving wet footprints on their perfect lawn. The car door shut behind us with a soft but powerful thud. Like a final chapter closing, I exhaled slowly, resting my head against the leather seat, still soaked, still trembling, but not from fear. From something deeper, anger, memory, resolve. Eli reached into the console and handed me a towel. You okay? I nodded, wiping my face. They always find new ways to remind me I don't belong. Eli didn't say anything at first. That's what I loved about him. He didn't offer empty comforts or sugar-coated lies. He let silence do the work. Then he said softly, "They'll learn soon enough." I looked at him. Not the man they once mocked. Not the man who once walked into my father's study with shaking hands, and asked permission to marry me. He wasn't that man anymore. He was the CEO of W3 Syndicate, the quiet force behind the largest acquisitions in the finance tech market this year. The kind of man who bought buildings, not bouquets. And he had done it all after they cast me out. You told me to remember that moment, he added. I still on the road ahead, but I think they're the ones who should remember it. I gave a half laugh. You think they even realize who you are? Oh, they do now. He wasn't lying, because 5 minutes after we left the party, my father was dialing me over and over. I didn't answer. My inbox pinged. Harper. Please call me. We didn't know. Let's talk. That was just a misunderstanding. It got out of hand. It was surreal. The same man who disowned me in front of 200 guests, who shoved me into a fountain, who publicly screamed I wasn't his daughter anymore, was now trying to talk. But I didn't reply because now I had the leverage. The next morning, we didn't go home. We drove downtown into the core of the city to a high-rise where Eli's name was etched into the marble at the lobby entrance. W3HQ. Come in with me, he said, holding the door. I frowned. Why? I've got wet hair, no makeup. I need you in the boardroom. What? He smiled. Because today, the day you sign your name on something they thought you'd never touch again. We took the express elevator to the 48th floor. When we stepped into the boardroom, the executive stood. Not for Ely, but for me. Gentlemen, Ely said calmly. This is Harper Whittaker. You may know her as my wife, but you should also know starting today she owns 51% of Crosswell Holdings. Silence. Stun faces. Crosswell Holdings, my father's company. The company I'd grown up hearing about over breakfast, watching him build from scratch. Obsess over. Worship like a shrine. The company he always said would only be passed on to someone capable. Not a dreamer, not a girl with soft hands. He gave it to James. Never to me. What he didn't know. 2 years ago, when Eli began quietly buying out distress companies, we came across one of Crosswell's shell vendors. Eli asked me to look into it. I did. And what we found, Quell had debt. Hidden, dangerous debt. Ely made a plan. I helped him. We didn't destroy Cell. Saved it discreetly, legally, powerfully. Then we acquired 32% over the span of a year. Then another 10% from a forgotten stakeholder in France. The rest yesterday morning. The final shares all in my name. Congratulations, the CFO said, finally finding his voice. You're the majority shareholder now. I smiled. Thank you. I signed the papers. Elegant black ink on cream linen stock. And just like that, I own the company my father swore I'd never be good enough for. I leaned back in the chair. Not out of arrogance. Not even revenge, but peace. Pure, quiet, overdue peace. Want to send the board a memo? Eli asked, half teasing. No, I replied. Let's send an invitation. Invitation. I nodded. To the next executive round table. Eli raised a brow where I smiled. Same place they threw the engagement party. 3 days later, the sun was sharp and merciless over the glass estate where it all began. The same estate where I was pushed into a fountain. The same estate where I was told in front of 100 people that I was nothing. But today wasn't an engagement party. It was business. The invitation I sent out to Crosswell's board members and to my father and brother was short and clinical. Quell Holdings internal review round. Attendance mandatory. Location Whitstone Estate East Pavilion. Host Harper Whittaker majority shareholder. Time 10 a.m. The reactions panic. I heard it in their voices on the voicemails. I saw it in the rushed emails Eli's assistant forwarded to me. James was confused. My father was livid. The board was unsettled, but they came because they had no choice. At 9:05 a.m., I stood inside the marble-pillared pavilion. Hair up, powder blue blazer, calm, intentional eyes. They arrived exactly on time. Of course they did. My father taught them that. He came in first, flanked by James and 2 long-standing directors. I watched my father's eyes land on me and stay there, unmoving, unreadable. For a moment no one spoke. Then he laughed. A short fake chuckle. Well, this is quite a show, isn't it? I didn't blink. This is a board meeting, Dad, not a show. James sat slowly, face pale. My father remained standing. So, you're the one who bought it all up, he said. Behind our backs, secretly manipulatively. It was legal, clean, strategic. I replied, exactly how you used to operate before the desperation. That hit him. I saved Crosswell. I continued. You just never noticed. You were too busy building James up. Blind to the storm your own decisions had created. Blind to your debts. Blind to the fact your company was drowning. You think this is some kind of power play, he snapped. Some kind of revenge because I didn't hand everything to you. No, I said slowly. It's a correction. You told the world I wasn't capable. That I wasn't worthy of your legacy. So, I built my own. And along the way I rescued yours. James cleared his throat. You're blowing this out of proportion. We were just trying to protect what Dad built. And pushing me into a fountain was part of that. I turned toward him, mocking me in front of your fiance's family, making sure the entire room knew I was unwanted. He looked away. I leaned forward. Calm, measured, ruthless in grace. This isn't revenge. It's reclamation of what was always mine to claim. My father's voice dropped. You've changed. No, I said, I've just stopped asking for permission. The meeting went on. I rolled out our restructuring plan. My team dialed in from New York. Lawyers, consultants, brand experts. Eli sat quietly, letting me lead. And when the presentation ended, I stood. I'm not here to fire anyone. I'm not here to humiliate you the way you humiliated me. I'm here to run this company better than you ever let me. Starting today, I turned to my father. My voice didn't waver once, and starting now, you'll refer to me as Chairwoman Wetaker. The room fell into silence, thick, reluctant, but real. He stared at me, but didn't say a word because what could he say? He had raised me to be quiet, to apologize, to shrink. And now he had to sit in a room I owned with men who once ignored me and listen, as I took back the narrative they stole. That night the estate felt different, like a haunted house that had finally been aired out. I stood on the balcony with Eli, sipping black tea instead of champagne. You still smiling inside? He asked. I looked out over the garden. The lights, the same stones that once framed the fountain where I fell. Yes, I said, but not because they're hurting. Then why? Because I didn't have to destroy them to win. I turned to him. I just had to become someone they couldn't ignore. Later that week, I returned to the estate alone. Not for a meeting, not for business, but to find something that had haunted me for years. My mother's will. After she died, I asked about it. My father said there was nothing left, and that she had signed everything over to him. But I never believed that. And now I had the legal power to look. I headed straight to his old study. It hadn't changed in 20 years. Same shelves, same framed photo of James shaking hands with the mayor. Not a single photo of me. I opened drawers, folders, beneath stacks of dusty ledgers and irrelevant documents. There it was. A slim yellowed envelope, unopened, handwritten to Harper Wetaker from Mom. If they ever try to erase you, read this. My hands trembled. I opened it. Inside was a short letter. My mom's voice echoed in every line. Harper, if you're reading this, it means your father did what I feared. Cut you out. But I need you to know this. I left everything to you. The trust, the lake house, the stocks, all of it. I saw what he tried to do to you. I saw how hard you worked. I believed in you even when no one else did. They'll lie. They'll hide this, but the truth belongs to you. With all my love, Mom, I froze. That lake house sold 5 years ago by my father, and stepmother said it was never mine to claim. The trust emptied. The stocks transferred to keep the family afloat, they said. I wasn't angry. I was done being angry, but now I had proof, and I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I was going to expose them quietly, cleanly. That evening, I met with our family attorney. I laid the letter on his desk. His eyes widened. Harper, this changes everything. Good. I said, do you want to press charges? No. I replied calmly. I want the truth revealed publicly. He nodded. Then you'll need to show up at the inheritance review. I'll be there. The hearing room was quiet. Too quiet. My father sat stiffly beside my stepmother, jaw clenched. James looked uncomfortable, constantly checking his phone like he wanted to be anywhere else. The family lawyer stood at the head of the table, holding the letter I'd found. Cleared his throat. Before we proceed with the scheduled review of asset transfers, he began, M. Whittaker has submitted new documentation in your late mother's original handwriting. My stepmother rolled her eyes. This is absurd. The lawyer didn't even flinch. The handwriting and signature have already been verified. It's real and binding. He opened the letter and read it word for word. Every single line. I didn't look at anyone while he read. I didn't need to. But when he finished, I heard it. A quiet gasp, then silence again. Then the lawyer continued in accordance with Mrs. Eleanor Whittaker's written and undisclosed final request. All assets, the trust, the remaining estate funds, and ownership of the lake property were meant to go to her daughter, Harper. James whispered. Wait, what? The lawyer ignored him. These assets were instead misappropriated. That's fraud. We're currently pursuing a full investigation. My stepmother slammed her hand on the table. We thought the trust was invalid. We were told. You told yourselves, I said, finally meeting her eyes. You both lied. And then you lived off of what she left for me. My father didn't speak. He couldn't because everything he had, his last ounce of pride, was now tied to an exposed fraud. You tried to erase me, I said softly. But Mom didn't forget. The lawyer turned to me. Harper, if you'd like to make a final statement. I stood calm, confident whole. No revenge, I said, looking each of them in the eye. Just truth. I didn't come to ruin you. I came to show you who I've become. Not in spite of your cruelty, but because of it. My father blinked. I don't know if it was guilt or shame, or just the realization that I'd finally become the one person he couldn't control. I walked to the door, and just before I stepped out, I turned. You said I wasn't your daughter anymore. Pause. Turns out you were right. I walked away. Not just from the room, but from everything that had ever made me question my worth. That night, I stood with Eli on the balcony of our penthouse, watching the city shimmer. He wrapped his arms around me. Proud of yourself, he asked. I smiled. No, not proud, I whispered.